my loves. Welcome to my channel. My name is Kristen, and here we explore an experiential approach to spiritual awakening and manifestation. In today's video, we're going to be touching on quite a sensitive topic, and it is one that people reach out to me for quite a lot. And it is the topic of going through heartbreak after a breakup and how this relates with manifestation. When we're going through heartbreak, it is completely normal and very human to long for that person back. And in the manifestation community, many people find themselves in this exact position of using spiritual tools to bring an ex back. And I want to begin by saying that there is nothing wrong with the desire for reconciliation, and there is nothing wrong with longing or missing somebody. Often we come to manifestation as a way to bypass the intensity of what we are feeling during heartbreak. And this is understandable. Heartbreak is difficult. It can be agonizing at points. It can feel like you are going to physically die. You may be trying to use manifestation to reverse the event rather than enter into what you are actually feeling. And in doing so, we actually miss the point of one of the most powerful initiations that we can actually go through. Although breakups can be extremely agonizing, they are one of the biggest awakenings into the truth of who we really are if we will let the process flow through us. So, over the years, I've had a lot of people reach out to me on this particular topic. In fact, I would say that most people that are interested in manifesting romantic relationships are usually wanting a reconciliation with a previous partner. And what I have observed over the years is that when people are using manifestation to solve this problem, they often end up entering what I call the Havisham state. So, the Havisham state is a term inspired by the character Miss Havisham in the Gothic novel Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. And if you are British, you probably read this in school. So, in this story, Miss Havisham is a wealthy but reclusive woman who was left at the altar on her wedding day when her fiancé jilted her. When she received the letter that he was calling off the wedding, she stopped all of the clocks in the house at the exact moment that the betrayal occurred, freezing herself in time. She never removed her wedding dress. She drew all of the curtains in the house, shut out the daylight, and left her entire wedding banquet, including her wedding cake, on the table to decay. She lived in this state for decades and was described in the book as literally wasting away, both physically and emotionally, as she remains trapped in the house of her heartbreak. When we experience a profound heartbreak and we enter that cycle of longing and we are drawn into the manifestation journey or the journey of desire, desperately hoping for this person to return, we often fall into a Havisham-like state of our own. We become frozen in the moment of abandonment. We refuse to take off the wedding dress, which symbolically represents the old identity that we have not yet let go of. We draw the curtains on our life, we disengage from the present moment, and we begin to deteriorate, perhaps not physically, but emotionally and spiritually. We go into an internal withdrawal while life continues around us. And although we may still function, we inwardly are stuck in a room where the clocks no longer tick. This state can persist for months and in many cases years, and it often continues until the suffering and the longing becomes unbearable and something in us finally surrenders. Now, this is not giving up and this is not a failure, nor is it a mistake. It is all part of the divine design. Because when the longing becomes too heavy to hold and we finally surrender, we give over to it, something deeper begins to emerge and we are initiated into the truth of who we really are. And it's not a coincidence that the most potent, powerful medicines do not taste very good. And I know that it probably feels like the worst thing that has ever happened to you, but this can actually be one of the biggest, most beautiful, transformative initiations of your entire life if only you see it for what it really is. If only we see it through the eyes of love instead of fear. The longing for another person at its core is really the longing to know the truth of who you really are. All desires, whether it's for a person or an experience or a material object, all desires function exactly the same way. All desires have the exact same spiritual purpose. The desire does not have to manifest the way we expect or hope in order for that purpose to be served. So, the desire for a person really is the desire for union with your own true nature as pure awareness and as presence itself. The breakup is not a mistake, it's a doorway, and you're being invited to walk through it. Now, when we learn about manifestation and we're trying to manifest the ex back, we completely miss this lesson because what is really happening is that you are reaching for this particular solution, you are chasing this reconciliation because the pain of the loss is unbearable. Heartbreak really can feel like a literal death. And I would say, in some respects, it is a death. Maybe not of the person you loved, but it's an egoic death. It is the death of who you believed yourself to be in relation to them. It's the death of what you thought love was and all of the identities that come with that. So breakups initiate this kind of ego death and they dismantle the identity you had constructed around the relationship and the identity that you have about yourself. This is a very profound threshold moment, but it's one that most people are afraid of and resist quite strongly, not only because of the intensity of the emotions that are involved, but because in the aftermath of it, we no longer know who we are. And because we're still identified with that version of self, we cling to it. We don't trust the transition. We don't trust the heartbreak medicine because it's unknown and it's disorienting. So, contrary to what many people may believe in the manifestation community, breakups are not a sign of failure, nor are they a mistake. They are natural manifestations flowing through source. All manifested phenomena comes to an end at some point. Nothing is permanent in the world of illusions. Every relationship, just like every identity, is a passing appearance in consciousness. It's transient. It arises, it serves its purpose, and it dissolves. This is just the natural unfolding of reality. It does not mean that you caused the breakup to happen through your thoughts or assumptions, but rather that the breakup itself is a mirror offering you a glimpse at your own reflection. Now, a reflection is not the same as a causation. You do not cause your face by looking in the mirror. The mirror shows you the face you already have. So, in the exact same way, the breakup is a mirror that reflects something already present within you, the identity of self that you have mistaken yourself to be. It brings to the surface all of your unconscious beliefs about abandonment, worthiness, love, rejection, identity, safety. People often struggle to understand what they see in the mirror of reality because they still see it as a relationship of cause and effect. They think that they are causing the reflection that they are observing. But the simplest way to understand what the mirror is showing you is to ask, who am I being in reaction to this circumstance? What does this circumstance make me feel about myself? That is the reflection. And often the reflection reveals painful contractions in consciousness, that love means pain, or that closeness requires shrinking, or that love requires performance, or that we are somehow unworthy of being loved. But these contractions are not who you are. They are conditioned impressions that shape how consciousness moves through form. And when they are seen, felt, and released, the mirror of reality shifts in response. A mirror has no choice but to reflect. When you are trying to manifest an ex back, aside from the fact that the personal self is not actually manifesting anything at all, but when you do come into manifestation with this intention, what is often happening is you are clinging to a very specific outcome as the solution to the pain. And in clinging to this outcome, you are not fully feeling and looking at what the mirror is showing you, and it will continue to reflect. The outcome of reconciliation may not be what is trying to manifest through us. We cannot really trust the ego or our thoughts, as the ego often tries to shape what the outcome is going to be. But manifestation is not about control, nor are you actually controlling anything. When we try to control the outcome, we inevitably suffer. We experience resistance. We start to use affirmations or thought flipping techniques or meditations or visualizations to force reality to be the way that we want it to be. This is the equivalent of swimming upstream against the current of divine intelligence. And then we wonder why the techniques are not working. We wonder why we are exhausted and why we still feel incomplete. And it is because we are trying to command reality rather than cooperate with it. Sometimes a breakup will manifest because we are being called into a deeper version of ourselves, one that can no longer survive inside the structure or the relationship that we found safety in previously. Who we are becoming is no longer aligned with the old forms, and so it crumbles and dissolves. From the perspective of the mind, this looks like a failure or a tragedy. But from the perspective of being, something far deeper is being set right. The difficulty is that most of us are still identified with the self that was formed inside that relationship. And because we may not yet understand or even trust what we are being initiated into, we panic and we try to reverse the unfolding. We resist what is happening, and so we suffer. This is because the self that felt validated by that relationship is now dissolving, and the ego does not want to die. The ego doesn't want to die because it sees itself as separate from all that is. So it tries to protect itself from dissolution. And oftentimes, part of that ego's protection is in trying to manifest the person back. The ego wrongly thinks that if it dies, you die. If it dissolves, you dissolve. But this is the illusion, because who you are is not the ego. It is not the self. It is not the character that you are expressing as in this world. It is being itself. It is awareness itself. It is completely normal to feel pain during a breakup. Pain is natural and it often arises when something dissolves. But suffering emerges when we resist that dissolving and we make a story about our pain. We have a story of who we were in that relationship or what we believe could have been. Pain, on the other hand, is clean, it's immediate, and it's impermanent. Suffering is what happens when the ego tries to hold on. When we are attached to a particular outcome, we start to suffer. And the normal pain that would naturally arise during a breakup becomes elongated. The natural pain that arises during a breakup that is impermanent and shifts when we are present with it turns into suffering and starts to last for long periods of time. In non dual understanding, the truth of who you are is not the ego self that is unraveling or dying through this initiation. The truth of who you are is awareness itself. The heartbreak process functions as a mirror, not to show you who you are, but to show you who you are not. You are not the abandoned one. You are not the rejected one. You are not the one who is grieving, even if grief is arising. You are the awareness in which all of these experiences are unfolding. The self may feel pain, betrayal, longing, shame, humiliation, but the awareness in which all of this arises remains untouched. It remains whole, and that is the truth of who you really are. The truth of who you are does not suffer at all. And this is one of the deepest recognitions that heartbreak can initiate, that nothing real can ever be lost. Nothing eternal can ever really be harmed. The truth of who you are, which is the silent witnessing presence of all phenomena as it manifests in and out of form, does not depend on being loved, wanted, validated, or chosen. It does not suffer loss, it simply is. Heartbreak is a medicine, and it offers healing not through comforting a false self, but through dissolving it entirely. When we resist the medicine, we remain in that dark mansion of stopped clocks. We freeze ourselves in time. Our refusal to take off the wedding dress is not loving devotion, it's the ego refusing to die. And like Miss Havisham, we begin to waste away. Maybe not physically, but energetically and spiritually. We become trapped in a moment that no longer exists, using the teachings of manifestation not to wake up to who we truly are, but to preserve an identity that is no longer in alignment with the truth. But when we allow these things to fall apart, when we trust what is being revealed, we fall into the truth of what we truly are. The way out of this Havisham state is not to force or control, but through surrender. Rather than using manifestation to try and secure an outcome that cannot be guaranteed, we are invited to ask what the experience is revealing to us. What is the mirror showing us? What unconscious beliefs are coming to the surface? What parts of the self is this showing to us? Heartbreak offers us a mirror, not to shame us, but to gently lead us back into our true nature, to show us where we feel separate from awareness itself. And when we gently relax those contractions in consciousness, we meet the pain without resistance. We begin to return home back to ourselves, and the purpose of the desire has been served, whether it manifests as a reconciliation or it manifests as a different relationship. Whichever outcome manifests will be perfect, and it will meet you exactly where you are. The longing that we once projected outward becomes the path inward. And from the deeper grounding of our beingness, something new arises. Consciousness manifests in other ways. If we are willing to allow it, heartbreak can become the very process that transforms us and brings us back home to our true nature. And we then become aware of the deeper truth that love is not an object outside of us that we give or receive. It is the truth of who we really are. Hope this helps.